So after I posted a video with a similar setup, I had a Model 10 just like this with a different optic on it. I had somebody ask a fair question. They said, in light of 223 5.56 guns becoming a little bit irrelevant, whether it's fighting rifles, military calibers, long distance stuff, you just don't see quite as much of that unless people are practicing or it's their, trainer gun. And so people have been asking, is 308 totally dead at this point? I don't think so. I really don't. I know that there's superior calibers. I know that 6.5 is selling far more as far as rifles chambered in it and ammunition. It's selling really, really well. But I still don't think 308 is dead. It's still an effective round. I like to shoot it quite a bit. I just did some back-to-back testing between my 6.5 and my 308. And my 6.5 at 600 yards on paper with 2 5-shot groups using Sierra Match Kings, 140 grain Sierra Match Kings for the 6.5, 175 grain Sierra Match Kings for the 308. They're both decent rifles. They're both, one's a 110, one's a Model 10. Some differences there. But what I found is that the 6.5 was printing about 2.5-inch groups. Now, 2.5 inches with a flyer. It was actually about 2 inches for the core of the 4 for both of them. They both shot really tight. And so when you're this close, if you're 600 yards and in, I really feel like 308 is still very relevant. It does have more recoil. There are some things that I like about it, though. It's a fairly cool shooting round, even though there's higher recoil. If you're not sensitive to stuff like that, and I'm fine with it, it doesn't heat up quite as much on my barrel, and I really noticed that. The 6.5 did heat up faster than this did, and I could tell. Even though it's got maybe a little thicker contour barrel on the 6.5, still heated up faster. And so group size was pretty similar at 600 yards. Now at 800 yards, that's a pretty good question. At 1,000 yards, I start to really heavily side with the 6.5. My groups are just consistently much better at 800 probably, and definitely 900 and 1,000 way better. Beyond that, you have to start doing something a little more unique with 308 to stay relevant or competitive. But if you're shooting 600 yards and in, I still feel like 308 is a pretty good caliber. Even in this wind right now, I'll cold bore. All right, so I'll go cold bore 3 rounds with some factory second 175 grain SMKs on a 2/3 size IDPA, no problem. That's just my warm up before I start moving to smaller targets. I have a 6-inch and a 4-inch target there, and in the wind I'll have to work for those a little bit and read the wind. But on this target, no problems. All right, so those are stacked. They're all in the same spot. I don't have my scope camera on here, but with this right on, I'm shooting on 16 power. Very, very good reticle. I like this a lot, especially for like PRS or target shooting. I just click with this reticle really well. But if you have a half decent optic, and even this $450 barreled action in my Orcs chassis, which just fits better with my body size, I think 308 is still very effective. And at 1,000 yards, I'm still making repeat hits on full-size IPSCs, even on windy days, once I get my data in. I do usually have to pay attention to that a little more than 6.5. So for starters out there, beginners, especially folks who are just hunting, they want a versatile gun, they want to do a little competition, some plinking, target practice. If you're going 600 yards and in, I'm at 630 right now. If you're 600 yards and in, I just think it's still a very effective cartridge, and it's affordable. Now, if you didn't watch the Right-On review that I did for this 7 Conquer, I did a lot of footage. I actually did a multi-part series and several shooting videos, so you can see the reticle at 1,000 yards plus long distance. I did a little bit of closer work, like maybe a few shots at 600, 300. I did a lot with that, and YouTube has really limited that video. I don't know what it is about that brand, but they just would not promote those videos, and so they didn't do as well as other brands typically do on my channel. I would really like it. If you haven't watched that yet, go check this out. I think this is totally undersold. It is a very, very good scope. Optically, the image has been right up there. I actually sold a couple optics that I really liked because I felt that this was a sufficient replacement for them. Higher magnification optics too. So it's a very, very good optic. I'm having a good experience with that. I don't mind if you comment down below. If you haven't had one or you had issues with yours, go ahead and tell them about it. I'm not a fanboy, but I'm going to tell you, I really like mine. I'm just going to run some 150 grain, it's FMJ boat tail bullets from Federal. These are actually factory seconds, and their SDs are bad, but I'm still going to be able to hit that steel, I'm sure, repeatedly once I fish around and find it. Here at 6:30. I'm going to start with holdovers. Then when I figure that out, I'll dial it in, and I'll probably smoke that target every time, even with these factory seconds. Oh, this actually hit higher than I thought. Impact. 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 So obviously I'm shooting from the prone. I'm not in a position, and so I'm not going to brag it up like, this is some sort of PRS test. But if you're a plinker or you need practice ammo, I can go buy this ammo for super cheap, and I don't need to reload. My barrel will stay relatively cool. I don't have to wait long between. I mean, the rounds I just shot are still cool. They're already cool. In my hand, I can tell. And so I just think it's really affordable. And I'm not sure why there's so much hate on the 308 wagon, because it's still been very effective for me, an excellent trainer. And when I do good with this, I hop on my other rifles and I seem to do better. So I'm getting practice rounds in. Go ahead and comment down below. Do you think 308 is still relevant in battle rifles, in target practice, and hunting? And then you also have to justify your position. Explain why you think that.